Apparently.
Welcome to the thrilling world of Security Squawk, where we explore cybersecurity. Guiding you through online threats, we'll aid you in understanding safety protocols and trends. Meet our gurus, Brian from Exact IT, Reginald from Arc Solvers, and Randy from Tech Rescue. Together, we'll delve into current events and hot cybersecurity topics, helping you comprehend their impact. Stay informed, stay secure. Security Squawk, the business of cybersecurity. Buckle up. Let's dive in.
What's up, everyone? Welcome back to the Security Squawk podcast. I am Brian Horning, and with me today is Randy Bryan.
Hey, what's up, y'all?
Andre is out this week, but the show must go on, right, sir?
Yes, he's at an undisclosed location. Bonus if you can figure out where he is, right?
He is not even in a country right now. He's like, it's in the,
Sure.
he's in the airspace, so, as they say. So we're about to get into two sides, basically, Randy, of the same coin. And on today's show, Randy's going to jump into how a major public watchdog office got hit by ransomware, and it's now delaying people from getting justice. And I don't have my mic on me. So we're going to talk about what that really means for public sector risk and accountability. And then I'm going to zero in on something that, I don't know if it keeps me up at night, but I definitely think about it a lot. It's something that, you know, as somebody who owns a company that sells cybersecurity services to businesses, and you have these conversations, you know, on a daily and weekly basis with different businesses that are out there. If you watch this show enough, I think you know my opinion is that businesses just don't invest enough and don't do enough. And it's not because I want their money or want more business for myself. It's because I don't want the cyber criminals to continue to do what they're doing and be motivated to do what they're doing. But we make it so easy for them that it is a thing that we have to deal with when we start a business or run a business. So I'm going to zero in on, you know, what businesses still aren't doing enough, who's not doing enough, who should pay attention around not doing the right stuff on cybersecurity. Because quite frankly, the risks are not theoretical anymore. They're financial, they're legal, and they're existential. So Randy and I are going to get into it today. So Randy, you got this story out of Ireland where a cyber attack isn't just about systems going down. It's now causing delays in real people getting their complaints resolved. So why don't you start to lay this out for us? What's going on?
Okay, so this story takes place in Ireland, and you know, we always put a little disclaimer. Yes, we typically focus on breaches that happen here in the States, but sometimes they matter, and we need to talk about them because the exact same thing could happen here. And so this is an attack in Ireland on the office of the Ombudsman. And an ombudsman, hard word to say. We don't hear people say it a lot. But what this office does, Brian, this office is where you go when you have grievances against the government. So when I read that they had been under a cyber attack. So first off, you don't want your grievances to be made public, right? You maybe they are somehow with these guys. I don't know. But this is potentially sensitive information. And on top of that, this particular office, not only do they handle cases, this is the crazy part. Well, one of the second crazy part, Brian, not only do they handle cases of grievances against the government there in Ireland, they also handle the IT for a bunch of other government agencies. So this agency goes down, and then they're providing services for IT services for a bunch of other agencies. And so those were basically offline as well. And this is a thing that is there's really a lot of spotlight on this right now, Brian, because you and I know dealing with government agencies, there are some agencies out there that are doing something to be cyber secure, but it seems to be an overwhelming number of them that aren't. It is still business as usual. You know, they're going to their yearly continuing education training on why they need cybersecurity. They get kind of nervous about it. They know they do something. They might have MFA turned on. And the crazy thing is, a lot of times they have an IT person or people in that role who knows where they need to go, and they're doing the best dang thing that they can. But this is going into a lot of deaf ears, or a lot's not necessarily being done about this. So here's an agency handles grievances. Also, they're the IT department for a bunch of other agencies. Not good, because when the government gets hit, public trust takes a hit as well. And we can't have our government. We live in a world, geopolitical world, where our, I don't want to say enemies, but at least our adversaries are very skilled with everything as far as cyber crime goes, cyber espionage, whatever you want to call it. We can no longer just sit around and just cross our fingers and hope that something doesn't happen. But let me bring it, start to wrap it up. So most likely this attack happened in the early part to mid part of December. They found out about it on December 17th. They shut everything down. And they basically, you know, they do all the things. They started bringing them back up as they could. Most of the public facing services are restored. Here's the thing, though, and I'm going to close on this. This is where it gets uncomfortable for me. Officials say there's no confirmed evidence that personal data was stolen. They went to court to block publication of leaked data. Okay, so now in Ireland, the courts aren't going to let you leak the data in Ireland. And I'm sure the cyber criminals or government, whoever's behind this, I'm sure that they're going to honor the courts of Ireland and not put this on the dark web. I'm being facetious and all that. But what we know from this, the fact that they went to court, they said nothing to see here, but they're going to go to court and block it from being released. That says to me that it very well could have had information to be released, and then they just don't know. The bad guys were in there for at least 6 days, right? Which is a lifetime in 2026. So I don't know if I believe that nothing came out at all. We'll have to keep our eyes on this over the next couple of months and see where how this plays out. But that's basically all of my thoughts on this one, Brian.
Such a weird thing to do, to go to a court and get an injunction to not have the data released. Like, it makes my head hurt, Randy. It makes my head hurt. Like yeah. This is not how we behave, folks.
Yeah.
Like number one, this does nothing. This is like grandstanding. Yep. This is like, oh, we're doing something. So like, when you decide to sue us later on, please be nicer to us because we did this, right? Yep. You didn't protect the data in the first place. That's where you went wrong, right? And if you put this much effort, or you're putting in getting injunctions after the fact that you put into your protections, you probably wouldn't be in this position in the first place. So it's like, again, this is going to cost you more money, take more effort than if you just had locked it down in the first place. Right. And that's the moral of the story in every one of these cases that we talk about this stuff, where these companies, these organizations, these governments think that like, hey, what we do after the fact will make us look better. I mean, I love talking about the Columbus cyber attack, the ransomware attack in Columbus, because talk about fumbling the ball. Like they gave us content for months and months and months because of how they handled that situation after the fact. And this is just another one of those things where you look at it guys like us who deal with this stuff for many, many years, and we look at things like this and you go, it's such a head scratcher. Like, what are you trying to do here? It's just one of those things that like you're like, wow, like, okay, you think it's going to strengthen your legal position, it probably won't. If you think it's going to deter, say, the media or third parties from republishing the leaked data, well, you doing that isn't going to slow down a journalist or somebody from leaking it out there. The only thing that's going to prevent that is you handling this correctly, right?
Yeah.
Because they're just going to do investigative journalism and say, hey, look, we went to this source or that source and we were able to get this data, right? And now it's in our hands. And to prove it to you, here it is. So they're going to have to publish it. Otherwise, people aren't going to believe that it exists. And unfortunately, that's the world we live in. But again, I think this signals the seriousness around data protection and lack of obligation in this case to do the right thing. And that's really the moral of the story of everything we're going to talk about today.
Well,
go ahead.
Well, you brought up Columbus, and this reminded me as well. Once you started talking, I thought of it before you mentioned it as well, because, they tried to go after the guy who was like the whistleblower on what happened. And then I might be mistaken, but I'm pretty sure after like months and months of all the making the wrong decisions and doing the wrong things, didn't somebody like introduce a bill to basically make it illegal to do like cybercrime in Ohio or something like that? And it's like, okay, good for you for passing that law, but that does nothing to fix what happened here. It does nothing to make what happened here better.
Well, no, if you remember correctly, in Columbus, there was a guy who knew cybersecurity and was calling out the government that he lived in. He lived there.
Yes.
And he was calling out the government for their handling of the situation.
Yes.
So bad, and was making them look so bad to the point where they went and got a court injunction against him from basically saying anything else or doing anything else. And I believe they brought him in and hired him after the fact, if I remember, my memory serves me correct. But that still didn't help them. That mayor was just so ego driven that like he couldn't get out of his own way in terms of like creating another debacle for himself around this stuff.
And then I think like their state senator or something like that introduced a bill making it illegal to hack cities or something like that. That's like making drugs illegal. I'm not here to make political statements on that, but how's that going? You know what I mean? Like you pass a law and someone that's going to do something illegally or whatever, they're going to still do it most likely. And I'm not saying don't have any laws or anything like that, but I'm just saying like it's grandstanding. That's what you said. And that always bothers me when politicians, which they do it a lot, they grandstand instead of doing what's best for their citizens. And, anyway, I don't want to get off on that tangent right now, but very interesting case, and we'll keep our eyes on it, everybody. And, if anything interesting comes out, we'll let you know in a future episode.
Yeah, I mean, this highlights that, in my opinion, this article, and the reason you brought it to the table is it highlights that attackers don't care if you're government or corporate. If you treat cybersecurity as an afterthought, you're going to pay more than a ransom fee, right? You're going to pay in trust and you're going to pay in mission failure, right? You're not going to be able to serve, like, I'm sure every organization or most organizations out there, even if you're just like a mom and pop pizza shop, right? Your mission is you get up every day and you make pizza and you feed people, right? Everybody kind of has a mission, right? And that's what these cyber attacks do. They disrupt your mission. And then usually that leads to disrupting you being able to make money, or, in the case of maybe a nonprofit, right? Donors are not going to give you money, right? Because you don't protect their data. So we've seen it in all different kinds of places. And I'm going to kind of go through that today. I'm not really going to focus on, this one article, Randy, so to speak. I'm going to kind of go through a litany of things that I've looked at over the course of the last couple of months here, and bring a bunch of things to people's attention that I think all tell the same story. That, in the private sector world, which we don't really get to talk about a lot, because the private sector, let's face it, they get a luxury that these businesses that we talked about today, these governments, these schools, they don't have the luxury of hiding. Like, they have to disclose this stuff in some way, shape, or form. Now, we can debate whether or not how they disclose is right, because sometimes they do it, they take the tiniest newspaper in the town and they send them a little article and say, here, publish this. And that's their public notification, right? And maybe some people see it. Randy and I are very good at digging up those articles and finding those and finding those little, public disclosure statements when governments get hit. But what we do know with private industry, Randy, is that preparedness keeps lagging behind. And you and I are extremely concerned because we know that, but now we're just layering on AI, right? And you can think of what you want about AI right now, right? And there are a lot of questions about what it is and what value it can bring today. But what it can do today is it can write code that produces malware, and it can find vulnerabilities that help cyber criminals exploit networks. Right. And that can happen right now today. So we don't need it to be invented. We don't need to be created. It's not like we're waiting for, robots that can clean your house. Right. It's here, and they're using this stuff right now. And I don't think businesses are using AI to defend or protect their organizations at the rate that these cyber criminals are figuring out how to use AI. Even legitimate AI like ChatGPT can be weaponized, and people are under this illusion that that's not the case, but I'm going to tell you it's the case. So, I got this major survey, headline up on the screen, and this is a survey that I found on securityinfowatch.com. And it was an interesting one, Randy, because it says that this is a survey of actual lawyers, right? So lawyers that think about you have a staff attorney, right, works at your company, send them off to, the legal conference, right? And that's where these guys get asked these questions, right? And I guess a little bit of this says, when I read this article, Randy, I felt like, hey, this is one of those articles that seems like it's a bunch of like upstanding legal people who aren't really in the BS business in terms of the information that they're giving here. They're giving us a real good look into like what's going on in the C-suites in companies, especially companies that are 100 plus employees, which they seem to be the ones that are ripe for the taking by these cyber criminals right now. All these attorneys are saying that they expect all cyber risk to intensify in 2026. And many of these people that were interviewed on these legal teams feel prepared to handle what's coming. And that's basically what they believe is because it's a marker of underinvestment and misaligned priorities in corporate America. And that was what came out of these surveys. Is it, any surprise there for you or anything that?
Yes.
Go ahead.
Well, the big thing that surprised for me, it honestly was shocking initially. Then I thought about it, and I'm like, makes sense, but I never looked at it this way. One of the points the article makes is that cybersecurity litigation is quickly becoming, if we're not already there, the number one litigation risk that companies face. So that's huge. If that's true, that we talk about it. We've talked about it a lot. I remember several years ago when we first started mentioning it, we were seeing it on the horizon. Okay. So you got the breach, you got the ransom, got the threat of release of data, whatever. Now you got the legal that's coming out of it, and we've talked about several times, company gets breached, always call your lawyer and your insurance first so you can say the right thing. be transparent, but say the right thing. And now this is fastly becoming a huge litigation risk for all companies out there. And so what that says to me, Brian, is it underscores the need. And, hopefully for people like me and you that lead companies that help mitigate and lower the risk or mitigate the risk, the cyber crime risk for businesses. Hopefully this will help people see the need for that. I mean, I know that's wishful thinking, probably not going to make any difference at all. But this is a huge thing. That's one that really struck me pretty hard, Brian.
Yeah. So there's two things that we know coming out of this conference where these kind of lawyers were interviewed and surveyed. Number one, they know that the risk is not theoretical, right? So, again, when I talk to CEOs and I talk to them about this risk, that's the impression I get, is like they're looking at me like this is all theoretical. Like this ain't legit. Like that could happen. And it's like, no, this is happening. It just hasn't happened to you yet. Right. And lawyers know this, right? And they see it with more companies getting hit. And on the other side of it, they're seeing how much companies are having to pay after they get sued. Rising verdict amounts was one of the key highlights out of this survey that these lawyers identified as a major risk to businesses. The other part is state enforcement actions. These are real consequences that these lawyers are dealing with inside of businesses in 2025, and they think it's going to only get worse in 2026. So they're not talking about cyber criminals and ransomware anymore, Randy. They're talking about enforcement of regulations and compliance. That's literally the risk that these lawyers are talking about. And that was the big thing that came out of that article for me. So you can look at this as a cyber criminal, like, oh, I'm going to get hit one day. I'm going to play Russian roulette and I'm going to take my chances every day and not do things the right way. But you basically have two different things coming at you besides cyber criminals, right? Litigation, which are those class action attorneys that are out there looking for that work when it happens, and then your state enforcement agencies, right? So the other thing I looked at is another article, Randy, that brought in the fact that the mid-market companies, 100 plus, about 100 to 1,000, you can think about those companies, which is a large swath of the businesses that are out there. I mean, people think that, like, yes, most markets are dominated by small businesses, but the mid-market is a very healthy and big market as well. And there's a gap that I noticed in the data here, Randy. 18% of those firms reported breaches in 2025 of these mid-market companies, but nearly 100% of the executives surveyed felt confident in their security. And isn't that true? Like think about like your company and my company. We talk about these kinds of things all the time. When we reach out to these companies, they're like, oh, we're good. We're fine. We're good. We got it handled. We got somebody. Right? Like almost 100% of the time. Now, I don't know what they're doing or who they think they have, but they're constantly getting hit. Right? 20% of businesses in that sector got hit last year. And it's going to be, some of the same ones that got hit last year are going to get hit this year, and another 20% are going to get hit. So it's only going to take, do the math, Randy, it's only going to take 4 to 5 years for every business in the mid-market to get hit.
Yep. I might be barking up the wrong tree here, Brian. I've interviewed a ton of CTOs, IT team leaders, and there's almost to a T doing a phenomenal job with what they have, but almost to a T not getting enough and knowing they're not getting enough to do what they really, really want to do, and really being forced to make decisions. I have X number of dollars I'm allowed to spend on this. I need 5X. They won't give me 5X. And so I'm going to make do on what I have and do some pretty scrappy things. there's probably some of these leaders out there, because we're talking mid-market, that maybe there's some out there that are slouches. I don't know. I've not run across many. What I feel like this is, here's my point. I might be barking up the wrong tree. I'll give you a little example and then I'll tell you my point. Little example. All the CEOs of the AI companies they all say AI is going to replace everybody's job in 2 years. They have to do that because they're salespeople. We wouldn't keep pumping trillions into these companies if we didn't have the hope that we were going to get what they're selling. It makes me wonder, man, are the CEOs or whoever's saying these things, oh, we're confident, we're 100% cyber secure, is that almost a sales thing for their investors? Because we're talking mid-market, for their investors, for the money. Are they just saying that where you got the IT guys? And I'm not talking IT guys, I'm talking like these CTOs and IT team leaders of these large mid-market, not large, but these mid-market organizations that are basically wringing their hands. And they're like, man, we're doing all the things we can, but we're on the tightest budget you've ever seen in your life. And they're not giving us enough. What are your thoughts on that? Am I barking up the wrong tree there?
No, sir, because it's actually a great question to ask for my next point, which is these companies are still getting hit. The research shows that top firms fail basic hygiene checks like password discipline, patching, and proper system configuration. These are not sophisticated technical problems that these organizations are dealing with. At the end of the day, it's a cultural leadership failure, in my opinion. If you can't enforce the basics and you don't have somebody in there who's championing your company to do the basics, how are you going to even handle the advanced threats that we're talking about that are coming here, right? These breaches keep happening. Millions of records keep falling into the wrong hands on a monthly basis, and that's every month. And companies still react after the fact. That's what's going on. And they're not building what I champion all the time, which is cyber resilience. You need to build this up front, and this is what you need to focus on. And companies of this size are refusing to do it. So Moody's, Randy, underscores this latest cybersecurity trend. And this is the scary part, right? I've laid out for you that cybersecurity is just severely underfunded. The attention isn't there from leadership. So it doesn't get the attention that it needs. It doesn't get the serious that it needs. But I've talked about it. The stats are there. There's massive gaps in what these companies are doing in cybersecurity.
Yep.
But here we have this trend of companies embracing AI tools, and they want this bot adoption, and they're going to do it without these rules in place. And to me, this is just going to equal chaos and security. Like, you're really going to put bots out there that have no guardrails and have no rules because you don't have rules? It's just not going to work, dude. You're going to have bots that are going to be the reason you get hit. It's not going to be Randy, the employee who clicked on that email. It's going to be Centra, the bot that clicked on the email.
I'm sorry. We have a lot of history and jokes with that. It's one of the early AI things.
So,
but yeah, that was one of the things. One of the articles brought up was that we don't have tight AI policies, and we're on.
Wait, we don't even have tight cybersecurity. So we're going to unleash
Exactly.
an employee in the organization that's a computer that just is there to please you and do whatever. Oh, yeah, sure. Here's my password. Because it's not trained or not told. We don't share passwords like that. Like, you're going to train your bot that we use a password manager and this is how you use the password manager. Like, this is why we're so far away from AI employees. It's not even funny. Like, you're not going to have an AI employee that understands, like, oh, I got to do this, I got to do that, right? You're not going to get that real easily. right? You might be able to get it to post to social media, create you an image, do these little tasks, but you're not going to be able to get it to start the day and finish the day and do all these different
Oh
tasks in order and have to do all these things. It's just not going to, it's just not there yet.
You need to add comma. You're not going to be able to get them to do it, comma, without them pooping the bed by the end of the day. That's what they do. But the point of the article was where the companies are just shoving so much data into AI, and they're doing it in an unregulated way. They're not looking at whether or not this data is going to be used to train or not train. Just yesterday, this is the second time I've done this, but yesterday I was working on a business plan for a business idea that it's less than 6 months, for sure less than 10 months out in the world. And the stuff that AI gave me, this is the second time this has happened to me. I'm sitting there thinking, wow, the people that have dumped all kinds of their work, their pioneer work, into unsecure AI, and now the AI is sharing this with me. And that's not the best example in the world, but that's a real risk that the article brings up, is that companies are just dumping stuff into AI, and they're not thinking about the risks. This is a brain that multiple people have access to, and unless it's specifically spelled out that your data is not used to train their AI, other people are going to get access in one way or another to your data. That's opening up a huge risk for businesses.
Yeah, massive. I mean, I don't know where this is going to go, but it's just not good at the end of the day. That's the whole point of what we're trying to get across today, right? What we see happening in Ireland and what we see happening across businesses with all this survey data. I mean, the articles that I referenced, there was probably about 4 of them, and they were all written within the last 3 months, right? One was written this month, two were in December, and it was from different, like one was from a law firm survey or a lawyer survey. Another one was surveying CEOs in mid-market. Another one was surveying IT people, right? And the story's the same. You just have to string it together because they all have different perspectives on what's going on, right? But the main story, if you boil it all down, the lawyers and the IT people know what really is going on. The CEOs are burying their head in the sand for whatever reason. Like that's how you can boil it down at the end of the day. So Randy, litigation isn't a legal department problem. It's a business risk, as we talked about. Confidence without evidence is a vulnerability, right? And I think that's what CEOs need to learn. Like, where's your evidence that backs up the level of confidence you have? Literally, the conversations I have, Randy, and I'm just real talk here. When I have conversations with CEOs, it's like, I love my IT guy. He's been with me for 20 years, right? He's my friend. I trust this guy. It really boils down to things like that, not data-based evidence, not science, which is what technology is. It's literally like, hey, he's my cousin. I don't want to, and he does a good enough job. You know what I mean? It's literally stuff like that you see out there that's going on. Like, they just get really comfortable with a human doing this role for them, and then whatever that person says goes. And unfortunately, a lot of times those CEOs are just not being fed the full story.
Yep.
From that person. Because basic hygiene still fails at the top. Breaches are frequent and costly. That's what we know today. And new technology like AI without governance is just inviting disaster. And I hope businesses understand that.
Yep.
That's it for me, Randy. I don't know if you got anything else you want to add. Good.
No, that's good. We've covered a lot today.
Yep, we did. We got into it. Actually, a longer show than I thought we would have without Andre here. And Andre is either landed or he's just hitting us up from the plane, but we'll just throw him in the show there. And he says greetings to everybody. He misses everyone. So if you got value from today's show, remember to hit that subscribe button if you're watching us on the YouTubes. Like us on Facebook and Instagram, and hit that share anywhere you're watching this or listening to this. Hit it and share it with someone who needs to hear it, or anyone that you think can value from understanding cybersecurity a little bit better in your circle of friends and family. And if you want to support our show and the work we do, you can always buy us a coffee at buymeacoffee.com/security squawk. That's SQUAWK. The URL is always on the screen at the bottom right. For Randy and I, we will see you next time. Randy will be back, or Andre will be back on next week with us, and we will see you then. Stay safe. Take care.
Bye, everybody.